this taking this pause and, like you said, to really reflect and be intentional with what you're doing. And I think especially in entrepreneurship, when you're speeding down a highway and like zooming past the signs and like expecting yourself to be able to read the fine print on a sign as you're going down, like speeding on the highway, like how is that gonna work? It's not gonna work. Like you're not gonna see it. But it's scary, you know, because it's scary because one, we're taught a totally different thing.
Yeah.
And there is this huge element of FOMO, I think, or some sort of fear of like, if I slow down, like, am I going to miss something? And I think we get to learn through examples of others, right? And like for ourselves, that slowing down is actually going to be the answer, because then we get to be intentional and we get to move forward with more clarity.
In today's episode, we're joined by someone who really embodies the spirit of exploration and freedom, Verena Seipp. We met by a chance encounter. Verena and I crossed paths randomly on an Airbnb experience in Toronto in 2018 during her time traveling the world in search of her purpose and next steps in her life. I remember being so inspired by her courage to step away from the familiar and really listen to herself about what mattered. That sense of exploration, both outward and inward, is still at the heart of her work today as a transformational coach. Verena helps people create space to reconnect with themselves, uncover what they truly want, and build the resilience to make real, lasting change. She blends mindfulness, holistic tools, and Reiki, and even creative approaches like Lego to guide people through transitions in life and business. In this conversation, we're going to explore the power of holding space, what self-care and mindfulness really mean beyond the surface level trends, and how we can find clarity and courage to live more authentically. So if you've been craving a reset, a moment to really listen to yourself, or the inspiration to take your next step, you're going to love this. Firstly, welcome, Verena.
Thank you, Polly. Thank you so much. That's such a lovely introduction. Thank you.
And you know, it's funny because we actually met in Toronto, didn't we? Quite some years ago now. You were traveling the world. Do you remember us meeting for the first time?
I do. I think the first kind of like interactive memory I have, and I don't know if this is true, was when we were on the bus, like going to one of the vineyards, but I don't know. I don't remember time-wise if that vineyard was the first stop or if we went to Niagara Falls first, or like what was happening when. And we took that, didn't we take the helicopter flight together?
Yes. Yes, we did. Yeah, we did.
Or wait, or did I not take the helicopter and we were on the boat? No, we took the helicopter flight, didn't we?
We did. It was definitely the vineyard first. And I remember being in the bus and thinking you knew everyone because you were so friendly. And I was like, oh, people have come in like a big group. And I assumed you knew everyone.
I knew no one. That's hilarious.
And I say that was our first time meeting. That was actually our only time meeting.
Didn't we bump into each other the next day?
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Wasn't that?
Yes. So we were at, what building was it that we were looking? We were in Toronto, tall building. I knew I should have looked this up before the podcast.
Oh yeah, me too. But it was that tall one that had like the glass floor, or the glass like where you could like really lean out and like explore the height, I guess, through glass floor.
I think I saw you wandering around. And did we even meet up, or did we go to the market together?
I think we definitely did some. Did we meet as we were coming down or something? I feel like, or I was going up, you guys were coming down, and I think then I told you we'd like meet up after I'd call you, and then I feel like there was something. We were in the harbor, on the harbor.
We went for drinks.
We went for drinks.
And then we kept in touch, but have been speaking probably more in the last year, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's so, I mean, I remember with your intro, those lovely words that you said, I remember just being so in awe also of you, like how you were like setting up your lives, you know, like this kind of, you also had this very like this free spirit at the center of everything that you're doing. And I remember thinking like, oh, that's so brave. That's so incredible, and now like all these years later to kind of see how you guys have developed and, how much your journey's also changed, and like the path you're going on now. I think that's probably why we were a bit more in touch through Instagram over this past year, as we were both just kind of talking more about what we're doing now.
Definitely. And firstly, well, thank you very much for saying that. That was really, really lovely. I was inspired by you just taking a year off and traveling. Yeah. How did that come about? What were you looking for in this year off?
It's interesting because now, like having gone through the journey of becoming a coach and the work that I do now, there are different words that I now have to describe what was going on, I guess. But I remember early in 2018, I had a moment where a family friend, actually a friend of my mom's, like who I just really was in touch with quite a lot and got along with a lot. She asked me a question, what we now in coaching call a powerful question, which is a short question that really cuts through all the BS and like makes you really think. And I had an instantaneous reaction and answer that came from my place of knowing, my intuition, we might call it, right? Mm-hmm. And the question she asked me was like, I was once again complaining about work, complaining about how life, was going and how stressful everything was. And she asked me, what do you want to do? And it was this thing of like, I didn't even think, I just said, I want to quit. And it was so, now I almost get like this, almost like goosebumpy, sick feeling when I say that, because it was so powerful in that moment, because I didn't even know yet that it was so, like I was so on the edge of burnout. That was the only thing I wanted to do. Like there was no more getting a bit of a holiday in, like maybe shifting my role, but it was like, I need to leave. Like I need to go. Because before I went to travel, I had been working for 12 years in advertising as like an account manager, different levels and different sorts of agencies. And while I really loved like the work of it, like working with creative people, developing concepts, coming up with scripts for TV ads and like print ads and really supporting, I guess, the sale of different products. It was super exciting, and getting to work with all these creative minds was super exciting. I really didn't find that life-work balance. I was always on. I was super stressed. I got to travel a lot, which I really loved on one hand, but then I also didn't have like, I guess, enough time at home.
It's tiring travel, isn't it? People always think, wow, travel, but actually like it is full on, especially if you're doing it for work and you're not doing it for leisure.
That's right. Because this always on piece is like, I found it difficult to manage that. And now I have different challenges now for sure, but I'm really glad that I listened to myself in that moment and decided to take the step. It took me another 2 months to actually then quit.
Take the courage. So do you think at that point when you quit, do you think your body was almost screaming, which is screaming that you wanted to quit? Do you think it was at that point, or do you think it was more of like a silent whisper? Because you talk about it like it was so, well, that was the answer.
Yeah. I think when I got asked that question, that was a scream. That was like, it came out like a waterfall. Like there was nothing like holding it back. It was just like, this is it. Like I need to leave. I have this conversation a lot with friends who have gone down similar paths, or people I meet who used to be more in a corporate life and now work differently or are on their their well-being journey, as we all are. Yeah. I wonder if back then I was like that I had more stamina with certain things. Or I just wasn't listening to the signs. And I know that not listening to the signs played a really big role.
What are the signs? Can you recognize the signs now?
Definitely. One of the signs that I recognize within myself is clumsiness. is that it's all about like when I lack mindfulness, when I lack presence, and that shows up for me. And the reason why that's so important, maybe that step first, the reason why it's important for me, and I think for most of us to be present, is because then we can really truly be in the moment and we can really listen to ourselves. We can tune in, we can make conscious decisions, we can listen to our body, listen to what our nervous system is telling us, all these things. But when I'm not present, I get clumsy. So I bump myself in my apartment, which I've been living in for over 11 years. So there shouldn't be, I mean, sure, I'll move a thing around every now and again, but like I shouldn't be bumping into my dishwasher. Like,
do you know what? This has blown my mind because I'm clumsy, but I'm not clumsy all the time. And it's fascinating that that's a sign for you because my jaw, and I have to pick it back up again because I was like, I wonder if this is a sign. For me. I've never ever thought about it like this.
Yeah, maybe it could be.
That's so fascinating. I'm gonna document this and I'll let you know.
Yeah, definitely. Because I remember I've had since 2018, I've had a few moments where I've been able to give a lot of time to like mindfulness and growth in very specific ways. So like one was going on a retreat and learning experience in India where it was just like I was so zen because for 2 weeks all I did was meditate every day, do yoga, learn about Ayurvedic wisdom, and like eat good food, and like that was it.
The dream. That sounds like the dream.
So I mean, when I was in those places and coming out of those places as well, I was so zen and so in tune with myself that I really had longer periods where I didn't have moments of clumsiness. And I would say more in like normal life, it's more typical, normal, whatever the air quotes here, right? Like to have that pop up more often because most of us are living in a world where we're constantly, almost like the word that's coming up is bombarded, like with input, right? Whether it's on our digital devices and when we live in places like, I mean, I live in Frankfurt in the city, like there's just noises all around. There are things that can constantly, I guess, like distract us and pull us out of the moment that like it just happens more often. So that's why I try to be quite in tune to, okay, I'm getting clumsy, or I'm not finishing my like sentence before starting the next one. I know that there's a few things you and I have talked about this, like where might ADHD play a role in all of this as well?
Yes,
right?
I think we're definitely going to have another conversation on this, aren't we? Because we've got a lot in common and a lot of overlap with this.
I remember when you were sharing and I was just like, I wonder if it's not just all mindfulness.
Oh, do you know what? I think that's so fascinating. We're definitely going to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Do you, just back to your year of traveling, was it a year that you went for?
It was 9 months and one block, which is when we met in Toronto. I had just kind of started in September, but I had traveled like for a few weeks at a time within Europe, but then always come back home. So it was a total of like a year, but the big block was 9 months where I started in the UK visiting my sister, then dipping into the US and Canada all along the way, and then continuing west.
And you went on your own, didn't you?
I did. And you know, the interesting thing was, looking back, I think there would have been a few things I would do differently now if I was to do this again. I wouldn't plan as much because I had already planned always like with increasing intervals, meeting people in different places, because I'm so lucky to I do have friends in many places in the world, that I would have a couple of weeks on my own, then like a week or so with a friend, then time on my own again. The longest I did, I think it was almost a month on my own in New Zealand, like a bit over 3 weeks. Yeah. Which was incredible. I mean, we could probably talk for just an hour about travel, couldn't we? At least. So yes, I traveled on my own, but I did have lots of blocks where I was meeting friends.
Did you feel like that year gave you what you wanted? Do you think you found clarity from that year?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it gave me a lot of space. And I think that space has become a really big theme for me in all things in life. Space holding, creating space for myself, just probably mainly like emotional space. Of course, it reflects in physical space as well.
Yeah.
But definitely the travel helped. And I think there were kind of a few big things. One was actually getting out of my environment that I was in to open me up to new things, like to have my eyes really open to new experiences, to, yeah, be brave and connect with people that I didn't know. And I think it's hilarious and oh, so fitting that your first impression of me was that you thought that I knew everyone on the bus.
I really thought, I was like, wow, they're coming in a big group. It's just like them and then Mamadou and I. And then when I got speaking to you the next day, I was like, you didn't know anyone. I was like, wow, the confidence that you alluded and that you brought. I was like, I want some of this. This is great.
It is kind of a trait that I was probably given before birth, at birth, whatever you want to say. It's one of my personality traits. I would say that I can easily engage in conversation with new people. But yeah, I think in that year of travel, I got to practice that a lot more because everything was an unfamiliar environment. And I really learned that it's about how I feel and then like making sure that I have a few things that really help me feel grounded and help me feel safe and confident. That was definitely something that the travel did.
How do you bring that into your daily life now, do you think?
I think it's sometimes as simple as like a reminder that I did that so I can do whatever my challenge is today. You know, like I think it is one of those things, probably also why we do things like jump out of airplanes or like.
When you talk about space, does that feel like freedom to you? Does that space equal freedom? What does space really mean to you?
Yeah, definitely. Space is, I think it's the freedom to discover and unfold and explore. And I think maybe it's also, especially I think for women, a like taking up space thing. Because like there's a lot of this like making things small or making ourselves smaller than we are. And oh, there's a whole nother topic for a podcast, right? Like,
Oh, 100%.
because I mean, I think it's something that I think, especially for women, I don't think so much for boys and for men, like this thing of like not being too loud, not being too much, not being too big, also
Too big for your
physically,
boots. Yeah.
right? And also this whole, it transforms to all levels of our lives. It goes from, yeah, exactly this like too big for your boots, like don't be too daring kind of thing, over to like as a woman, you should look a certain way in most societies, right? Like there's this one like very small image of a woman and like all these things. I think it's changing a lot. I mean, I see it with how my sister's raising her daughters. That's not the thing. Like, it's not, don't raise your voice. Obviously, like, don't scream when you're indoors or whatever. But like, it's not this like, you shouldn't, like these shoulds. I think it's probably space for me is all around letting go of the shoulds and exploring what comes up, whatever the topic might be that's wrestling around up here and in our bodies, actually. Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm really enjoying. When I was doing a little bit of research, the word space, it sort of popped up a lot, and I really like that you describe coaching as a sanctuary, like a space where people feel truly heard. Why do you think that's so powerful?
I think any situation that we are in life, a person that we're talking to, no matter how good of a friend or a partner, colleague, any role, any relationship there is, they're always representing their own interests as well, consciously or not, right? So like, I think a really good friend, when you have a conversation, they are holding space for you, of course, and a good partner will really hold space for you. But at the very least, their interest is your happiness, and that will come in in some sort of way in that conversation. And in coaching, I mean, and this is the main thing that we learn, is to really, as much as we can, because we're intelligent humans with our brain doing things all the time, that as much as we can to really turn off our assumptions and to just listen and reflect and as unbiasedly as we can ask questions. And I think it's so powerful because we don't get this like unbiased space in any other constellation.
Do you feel like the answer that people give you initially is not always the full answer, like it's surface level? Do you have to really dig deep to get that answer from them?
Yeah, I think it very much depends on kind of where someone is on their journey, where we are in like our process, right? If it's a first session or fifth session. The interesting thing is I work a lot with intuition. That's the main thing. So like if somebody tells me if I ask a question and somebody gives me an answer and I just kind of feel like there's more to it, I ask them again or I challenge them. And if they say, no, that's it, I'm like, okay, but if I feel that it's not it, I don't push it because it's their journey. They don't have to go beyond where they want to, but it's very likely that it'll come up again and then we get to explore deeper. But yeah, I would say I'm sure it's probably like 8 or 9 times out of 10. There's more to follow up on because I'm picking up on something or I'm noticing something, and maybe in their expression, maybe in their tone of voice. And so most of the time it actually is like my intuition. It's like a gut feeling, or like I really just hear the questions, but it's that I get curious about it without thinking that I know the outcome. Right? It's not like I ask the question and I think this is what they're going to answer. And if they don't answer that, then I ask again until I get that answer. That's actually not good, because that's pushing someone in a direction. Then it's better to say, I think this is what it is instead of asking them the questions. Yeah.
And being curious, that's probably one of the most important parts to it, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Being curious to like explore what's behind something. Yeah.
When do you think was the last time you felt listened to?
That's a very good question. I think, I would say it happens daily, but on different levels. Like a good example of where I don't really feel listened to is, and this happens to all of us, right? But like when we're making plans with friends and like you tell them what's going on for you on day XYZ. And then they ask you again and again about that day. And you're like, I've told you twice. Things like that. But it can happen all the time. And again, that's the other person there's so much happening for them. They're not in the moment. They're not truly listening. Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of compassion and a lot of understanding, of course. But those are moments where I don't feel listened to. When I do feel listened to, I think, it can be in any spaces, but I think I'm interestingly somehow avoiding the clear answer to your question. What's going on there? Let me think. Okay, so last time I felt truly listened to on the seemingly small scales, it's like when I was at my sister's house earlier this week and she asked me what I wanted for breakfast and then she made me eggs for breakfast. Like those are small things. And I like using seemingly small as well because they might seem small, but they're actually, the small things make up the big things in life.
Definitely, yeah. Definitely.
I am very fortunate to get regular coaching also from my mentor. So in those sessions, I always feel very listened to and very seen and very heard. Yeah. And I also think in my partnership, like with my boyfriend, there's that level of like him almost anticipating things that I might need.
It's interesting because I've spoken to so many people about this, and so many people actually do answer, don't they? They listen to answer, not listen to truly listen and hold space. And I have had so many conversations where people have said that's the most interesting conversation I've ever had. And I was like, I didn't share anything about me. All I did was ask questions and let them answer it, and for them to be really, people's favorite topic is themselves, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so, and I think that's so beautifully summarized, right? It's that this listening to listen and not to answer, or which, like, I think our conversation here is a beautiful example of like how conversations do flow, is because obviously you're the one with the questions and asking me, but it's like it's going back and forth a bit as well. But yeah, I think this is also an example of holding space, isn't it? It's the main focus is on me.
Well, but my next question is, how do you think holding space differs between therapy, mentoring, or even friendship? Or do you think they've all got crossovers?
I think in terms of how it can make us feel, there's crossovers. But if we're talking about like what let's say the purpose is of these different conversations, is that, so with therapy, for example, the therapist's role is also to analyze. Like they're meant to give analysis and diagnoses. And I think especially if you go into like psychoanalysts or psychiatrists, right, there's a big part that's analysis and prescription of some sort, like recommendations, right? And in mentoring, similarly, right? If you're having a mentoring conversation with someone, you want to learn from what they did.
Yeah.
And in friendships, of course, the friend wants to give you their opinion and wants to support you. And I definitely had moments where I was at the beginning of my coaching journey and I wanted to practice my coaching skill also in friendship. It was not as appreciated as I thought it would be. Because people wanted answers and they wanted feedback and they wanted my recommendations and like my thoughts. And in coaching, you don't do that. And in a coaching conversation, the space holding, it is that unbiased piece as much as we can do it, and letting somebody, this is a quote I actually like to use the most, and it's from one of my colleagues from my first certification that I got, Margaret, in case you're listening. She said coaching is helping people have a conversation with themselves that they cannot have by themselves.
Oh, that's really powerful. That is so true. It's so true. And it's interesting because I often, and I don't know about you, I don't get there unless I learn by speaking about things.
Yeah.
And I could maybe get 70% there. And then I'm like, why can't I get there on my own? So that's where coaching comes into play, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And it is because like in coaching, like we reflect what we're noticing, what we're hearing. Like I said, shifts in tonality, in body movement sometimes, and like what we pick up energetically, right? Like if someone's energy seems to shift or something like that. Usually it's in a lot of positive ways, like when somebody's talking about something and they just kind of like light up and their mood just seems to lift, and you reflect that. And then maybe they never thought that whatever topic they were talking about might be a career path or whatnot, right? Like those kinds of situations. But I think that's the biggest thing, is that there's no like analysis in coaching.
Yeah.
Of course, I give like tools and tips and like things like that, but that's almost like
the icing on the cake, would you say?
Yeah. It's like a little part of it. It's not the like center of it.
Speaking of quotes, I've actually written down something that you said a few days ago.
Oh boy.
This really struck me. So you posted something, I think it was Instagram. You put, in today's fast-paced world, we all need more rest, more time and space to reflect, to connect, to understand, to learn. I really, really related to this, because something I say is that we can't dream when we're stuck in survival mode. And if we don't have that space, that time to think, time to be, time to breathe, we can get stuck in that cycle, can't we? Absolutely. Can we talk more about that post? And also, why do you think creating space and slowing down feels so radical in today's world? Like, I feel like not that many people do it, do they?
I know. To me, this was kind of like, they have the saying in German that's like that, kind of like scales fall off your eyes. Like it's a weird thing, but it like just means
I'm imagining this. It's very weird. So.
Kind of gross, but it's the saying because I remember when I started thinking about this also the same thought, like what you said, that it's a radical thing, but it should be the most natural thing. Yes. And I was like, what's happened that we think that the only way to get somewhere is super fast and not even super fast, but like with such intensity and speed, and like we're meant to just keep this level like all the time and go beyond any resources that we have. And I know my good friend Isabella, who's also, we worked together and then we left the company around the same time and have gone down similar paths with mindfulness. She does a lot of breath work and work with the nervous system, which I'm so grateful for because I keep learning from her as well. Mm-hmm. And she talks about this a lot. And actually, this fight, flight, or freeze, like our nervous system, like we do get stuck in it, and we get stuck in this functional freeze mode a lot, which just means we continue to perform, but like at such an intense like use of energy, and like in this almost depressive state, because like nothing is fun anymore, but like we're just pushing. And I think one of the things Isabella also shared with me, I think she made a LinkedIn post about this actually, that she heard in a conversation with some very high level women in their later 40s, I think, that said about this whole like burnout and like going beyond where we can and should probably go. She said something to the effects of, but that's how we got to be so successful, by always pushing beyond. And I'm glad we're talking more about this, because I don't want that to be the truth. Like I almost have this like rebellious need against it, because I'm like, it can't be the only truth that in order to be successful, that we always push beyond our resources. We always push beyond like our energy. I think there's one thing about stepping out of your comfort zone and like jumping out of the airplane, metaphorically or actually, to show yourself that you can do great things and that you can be brave and all of that. But it's something else to push your energy or to push yourself physically, emotionally, mentally past your breaking point for years, because that's an expectation from some person somewhere up, I don't know where. Yeah.
Well, it's capitalism. Things never ever stop, do they? And I think we can learn an awful lot from animals. They hibernate in the winter. I am someone who deeply needs to hibernate in the winter, and I have never been one to set goals. Well, no, I did when I was copying what everyone else was doing, but setting goals in January, for example, who feels excited to get going? I feel more excited maybe April, May. So I tend to set goals in like April and then again like September, October, but January, oh my goodness. And funnily enough, I have been reflecting a lot recently, and I've been building a business for 12 years now, and I hustled so hard at the beginning, and I am actually achieving more now because I'm more intentional. I'm not doing all the things. I actually now know what are the few things, or sometimes the one thing I can do that day. Or that week that's really going to move me forward. And before, I was like doing all the things and burning out and then carrying on and burning out. There was no real break. And I think especially as business owners, the one thing we can do is go inwards and check in regularly and go, hang on a minute, I built this business for me. Is this delivering on the kind of life that I want? And if not, why not? And what can I change about it? But I think we are going through a movement at the moment of people, especially as you said, I'm in my late 30s, early 40s, where it's like, hang on, do I want to live like this?
Exactly. Oh, it's music to my ears to hear you talk about that and your experience with it. And I'm right now, actually, there's been this movement for me as well, where I really want to focus my coaching work on this whole concept around slowing down to gain momentum.
Yes.
Like, right, this taking this pause and, like you said, to really reflect and be intentional with what you're doing. And I think especially in entrepreneurship, when you're speeding down a highway and like zooming past the signs and like expecting yourself to be able to read the fine print on a sign as you're going down, like speeding on the highway, like how is that going to work? It's not going to work. Like you're not going to see it. But it's scary, because it's scary because one, we're taught a totally different thing.
Yeah.
And there is this huge element of FOMO, I think, or some sort of fear of like, if I slow down, like, am I going to miss something? And I think we get to learn through examples of others, right? And like for ourselves, that slowing down is actually going to be the answer. Because then we get to be intentional and we get to move forward with more clarity. And I'm not great at this all the time. I just had a conversation with my friend Isabella again, where we fall into this trap. Really, this is probably the second year at least where we have this conversation of like, we get to September and we're both like, shit, I haven't taken a lot of time out. Like, in my case, yes, I've traveled. I mean, I had this amazing retreat and learning experience in Bali in March.
Oh my goodness, I followed you on Instagram. This looked phenomenal.
It was like really heaven on earth, like is what it felt like. And it was also another one of those moments where I felt so zen, so strong and calm and all these things at once, because it was the environment that was created. It was the space also that I gave myself. This was a little shocking moment for me, but I realized that really for the first time in 5 years, I was completely off for 2 weeks.
And by off, do you mean no work, no social media? What was
nowhere? I did social media, but I did it in that playful way of like, like sharing the pictures and like I wanted to share where I'm at and let people see and all of that. But I didn't do any emails. I didn't do anything.
5 years. Wow.
I know, it's so bad. That was like, I knew every once in a, like around the Christmas time, holidays, things like that, I'll do a week like in the summertime. But I had to be honest with myself this March and say, truly, this is the first time. And I've been saying I need it for years. And the fact of the matter is I didn't miss anything.
And you didn't get behind in anything.
No. And on the contrary, I was in a learning experience as well. So then you could argue again, like, how off was I really? I was learning, so.
But are we not learning all the time anyway?
Exactly. And if it's something that you really love, I think for me, it just felt different. Yes, they were full days, but in this like very, slow, intentional, calm, healing way. But yeah, I mean, like I said, oftentimes it's the people who preach and teach, about certain things that have the challenge themselves. And for me, in October, I have 2 weeks that I'm taking off.
Amazing.
Heard it here first. Now
we'll hold you to that.
Definitely. Now, I'm going to do that the last 2 weeks in October, but I'm feeling the need also to have at least like a long weekend. I get triggered by people who don't do that, because again, I fall into the trap of thinking, well, but they're successful and they're doing the work all the time. Shouldn't I do it?
We never hear the full story. I always think you see so many people on social media, success in inverted commas, and I've been learning a bit more, let's say, about Stephen Bartlett, who works all the time, and he has just had a kid, and he said something like, I don't know how I'm going to fit this kid into my life, but I know I'll make time. And I think, God, imagine being so busy that you're worried about how you're going to fit a kid into your life. I wonder, because it's all lovely going on these retreats, and I hold them myself, but I wonder, how can we bring that into daily life regularly? And it's going to be different for everyone. So I know maybe it could be I don't know, let's say Netflix, but for other people it's complete silence.
Yes.
It could be, for me, like I feel like I truly rest when I'm with my animals. They really seem to reset my nervous system. And a cuddle with the dog, like I sigh, he sighs, and it's like, oh, it just feels, I don't necessarily like the holidays, the retreats, they're great, but it's, I wonder, how do you find that, you personally, in the day-to-day? How do you get that retreat feeling and bring it home?
Yeah. It's, I think, in, finding little islands, like mindfulness. And again, it's a German saying. I don't know if we say it in English like we do in German, like we call them in German. So mindfulness islands that you create throughout the day. I think that's really the key. And like that we have little, again, the seemingly small routines that help us ground ourselves and feel grounded. And why do we always talk about grounding? Is because before we do anything else, we need to feel held, we need to feel stable. And we do that with breath. We do that with physically actually just lying on the ground sometimes.
I love lying on the ground. I do this even if I'm just watching TV, I'll lie on the ground.
Amazing.
It feels so great.
Amazing. It's so nice. And I remember my niece, when she was just about 2 years old, we would be walking somewhere in the city, like in a park, and she would just lie like face first, like lie on the sidewalk and just like take a breath, and then we continue walking.
Oh, that is grounding, isn't it?
That is so great. I'm like, just let her ground herself. Like,
but this is what we need to learn from the kids, because I feel like we do so much like unlearning, like, and actually like going back to when we were, what we liked when we were a kid probably is still how we still like it now.
Yeah, there's so much truth in that as well, and it's so important. I think there's a certain element of that feeling that we get at a retreat of being in a different location that we won't be able to replicate at home. But there are, I mean, we know how powerful scent is with our nervous system. So like I got some incense when I was in Bali, and every once in a while I'll burn one and it'll just take me back and it'll make me feel like I'm there in a way, right? Or meditation, or if we don't feel comfortable with meditation, if I don't feel like I'm ready to like sit down for 15, 30 minutes to meditate, that's usually when I need it the most. But but breath work, right? Taking 3 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, sometimes like dropping our shoulders, like really like just things like that. There's so many little tricks that we can use throughout the day to just feel a bit more calm and slowed down. And it mainly has to do with tips and tricks for the nervous system, essentially. Yeah.
I think a lot of people that are going to be listening are going to be women that are in entrepreneurship. Do you have a go-to tip or trick that you would recommend, something that they could do right now?
I think my favorite really is the clearing breath, which is inhale through the nose, like really deeply into your belly without hurting yourself, right? Like really letting the air escape through your mouth, through your open mouth, and if you feel comfortable with it, when you're in a space where you can, let noises come out, right? Like let exactly. Just like let it go, and do that 2-3 times. And that's something that you can do in any moment. You can, especially in today's world where we do have a lot of virtual meetings, if your mic is off, who's going to be able to see that you're taking a clearing breath?
Exactly.
No one. So you inhale through the nose, like maybe someone will notice that your lips are parting, whatever. The deep breath into the belly, and it's like an immediate calm for the nervous system. Yeah.
Oh, this is great. And it's so easy to forget to do the basic things, you know. And I remember when I was going through physio, I had an amazing physio, and when he was talking to me about breathing, he would say, look, there's a guy over there getting into his car, all the way over there. He was like, I want him to be able to see that you're taking a big breath. Feel every part, feel your back, feel your lungs, don't just take the surface of it. And I tell you what, when you do that, it just we get so used to shallow breathing, don't we?
It's so fascinating because I had this conversation with someone who I go to like strength training classes with. And there was something there. So I go to this amazing studio in Frankfurt. If anybody's interested, DM me on Insta. I'll tell you all the details. But it's these amazing people that are all like physiotherapy based. So like their knowledge is just like so immense about the human body. So she was having like, it was something about her abs, right? Like she was training her stomach muscles that day. And our trainer was saying to her, like, you need to breathe differently, like, because she was taking breaths up here, which most of us do. Most of us take breaths in our chest. But actually, if we think about the lungs, where they need to expand is more the base, right? So like the rib cage and the belly. And I remember I sang a bit in high school and in uni. So I was in a chorus in university. And I remember we spent a lot of time on breathing. And she would show us, like, you know, also opera singers and singers on Broadway. Like you can see from the last row in that theater that woman is inhaling, right? Because the belly just goes out. Like, I started breathing like into my stomach, essentially, like in my early 20s. So to me, that's my natural way of breathing.
Wow.
But it's definitely something to think about. And it's tricky, you know, if you've been breathing through, like if you've been inhaling up here in your upper chest.
Which I definitely have. I know that I do that.
Yeah. And then somebody, like my chest essentially doesn't move when I breathe. Like it's all my belly.
And I want to learn how to do this.
It's just practice a bit. It doesn't have to be a lot, you know, just practice a few minutes every day. Without hurting, like you don't want to stretch your belly so much that you're in pain, you know, but like just sending your breath down a little bit more. And then it'll naturally, I think, just change throughout time.
It's interesting that you say this and a little bit each day, because I think it might have been a year ago, but I read a really good book called Breath. Is it Breath or Breathe by James?
Yes,
Nestor.
hold on. Yes, Nestor.
And something I was doing, I was a mouth breather. So I started taping up my mouth for little bits. And now I sleep with it across my mouth. And I get sick a lot less. I don't get common colds. And, you know, I was like, there's really something in this. So I'm really enjoying going a bit deeper and learning about this. But we don't learn it, you know, it's not common knowledge, is it? You do have to do some research. You do have to have chats with this. But we don't, dare I say, learn it at school. We don't learn anything useful like that, do we?
I know, we don't. And then I think to top it all off, this like idea of, or whatever somebody says about like not having your stomach poke out, like to top it all off, like actually, yes, like actually pop your stomach out when you're breathing.
Yes.
That it gets soft.
And actually, as women, I guess we are taught, especially like to appear thinner, and especially like, so you breathe in naturally, and I guess like photos, everything like this, you breathe in a bit, and I wonder if we've just got so used to tension and holding that in as well.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about entrepreneurship?
Yes.
Which is, we probably need a few deep breaths when we talk about this, with all the ups and downs that we both go through. We've both been through our ups and downs. What do you think, what emotional lessons have surprised you the most along the way?
I think it's also, considering all the things we've already talked about, one of the big ones is compassion for myself and the journey and my need for rest.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably actually the biggest one, as seemingly simple as that might appear. It's probably the biggest one, and the one that on certain days I still struggle with the most.
Yeah, and I think a lot of women will maybe undercharge, but if we get used to charging our worth, then we can earn that more, and then we can take that rest, can't we? But if we're undercharging, we are constantly doing too much.
It is. And I just had a conversation today with a studio that was interested in yoga nidra and me teaching it. And I was thinking, like, I think I should have doubled essentially what I said I would charge an hour.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's just an aspect of like research that we get to do before we go into certain conversations. I think it's really the deeper exploration of like, well, why am I thinking that I'm not worth this amount of money, considering all of the expertise we have, all of the learnings we've gathered over the years?
Yeah.
Not just in this one area of business, but like life and just what we do every day. And yeah, I mean, it creeps in all the time. And then I was I was actually driving away, coming back here to have this beautiful chat with you. And I was like, I think I need to let her know that I don't think I can do it at that rate, like just flat out, and then see. And if it's not meant to be, then it's not meant to be. But I think there's the bigger step in it is to be brave and to stand up for that.
How would you feel if you went back to her and doubled your rates? How would that make you feel, Verena?
I think actually especially after this conversation, it would make me feel obviously a teensy bit nervous, but nervous only in this. I think I know the piece that makes me nervous is that I'm going back on what I said, that I wasn't steadfast and or clear enough within myself before. I do think the biggest piece would be that I would feel good and I would feel strong about my action.
Yeah. And actually, there's nothing really wrong. If you were having a conversation with a friend or someone else, you go, actually, I've had a bit of a think about it, and that doesn't quite sit right with me. Yeah. What would feel better would be if I charge this. Is that somewhere you can meet me? And if not, it was not meant to be.
I've had so many conversations around this as well in the past month with entrepreneurs where it is this thing of, there's this aspect of, if I didn't need to live off of the work that I do, of course, there's an aspect in me that would be like, oh, I'd want to do it for free all the time and help people in this way. But also the fact of the matter is I've given coaching for free and part of my training, and people show up differently.
They do. Totally. That was going to be the next thing I said, is if you gave it for free, people wouldn't value as much. And actually, if you double your prices, people would see the value more.
Yeah. And it's this because we live in a society where value equals money, at least on one level, right? Yes. And I think until we live in our beautiful futuristic, bubble where we all live off the land again and just, the sunlight nurtures us, I don't know, then we need financial means. And I think this has been a really empowering conversation for me, talking with you about this again, because it's just, that is the truth. It is that we get to value ourselves and the work that we do, which equals a certain hourly rate, let's say, right? And I think even beyond that, I would wish and hope that companies in the future do not equate the value of an employee with the amount of hours that they sit at a desk, but with the outcome. And if someone's super speedy at what they do, then why not pay them the same amount as, not even, they should get more. They should get more than somebody who takes twice as long, because they're super efficient.
Yeah, definitely. It's such an interesting one. And I think often when we talk about money, there's like a dirty word attached to it, especially when women do. And it's not dirty. I always think that you become more of who you are. If you have more money, you become, let's say if you're a kind person, you become kinder. If you're a dickhead, you become more of a dickhead. I think money only makes you more of who you already are. And it's definitely a big topic, and one that we need to be having more of as women.
Yeah.
Hiding away from the how much should I charge? What's my value? And pricing ourselves too low.
I guess the main thing is I don't think I want to be working with people who don't understand the value that the work that I do gives them.
You'll be working with the wrong people in that case. If they don't see your value, there's no point arguing with someone. They're just not there yet, or you're not the right coach for them. But I think we've got to stand in what we deserve.
Exactly. I had a conversation with a, air quotes, potential client who was essentially negotiating about 50 euros off a package price. And I was like, I don't negotiate these prices. Like,
no.
I mean, he never contacted me again to work with me, which is how it's meant to be. But what I saw and noticed about him as a person, the 50 euros do not make a difference for him in the slightest.
Game.
Yeah. Probably for all of us when we're in any sort of work environment, it's feeling strongly about ourselves and like secure in who we are and what we offer.
Instinctively, and this is what, I've heard you refer to as could be your intuition, your knowing, your light. What does that feel like for you? Because I imagine it's all slightly different for everyone. Maybe it's not, I don't know. But what made you feel a bit icky, like he wasn't your ideal client?
It was already from the beginning of the conversation how he was. There was a lot of game playing. We met at like a street fair thing, almost like in Frankfurt.
Yeah.
Very, very casual setting, but we got into the like working conversation of what we do for work. And then, he was quickly into this like, well, what can you offer me? What are you going to do for me? What is this kind of thing? And I was like, I help you find the answers within yourself. Like, that's what I do. I don't tell you what to do.
It's actually a quote that's come to mind. It's a Maya Angelou quote that says, when people tell you who they are the first time, listen to them.
Yes.
Listen to that. And he told you straight off the bat, didn't he? Who he was. And so often, and I also think as women, that we would carry on with that relationship to be nice, to be kind, to whatever. And maybe men would find it easier to go, actually, I don't think there's a match here. But we would be more, especially us heart-centered people that are maybe too nice, let's say, to taking that too long, when actually, how do we cut the conversation down? How do we shut it down, rather, quicker?
Yeah. And I do think the point that you raised about this like confidence piece of like being secure in any aspect, right? Not just in work, but in dating, in friendships, and I think anything that has to do with your time and your energy. And I think energy more so than time, because time feels different, right? Depending on how your energy is. Like, I mean, now we've been talking for over an hour. It doesn't feel like it, does it? It's like, it's a very high energy environment for us. I mean, big assumption, but I'm getting that energy from you. And, but it's that piece of the confidence in it and trusting yourself, trusting your gut. And that comes back to this slowing down, connecting to yourself.
Yes.
And again, there's the difference between feeling a little bit apprehensive about something because you're moving out of your comfort zone and really feeling icky, right?
That icky feeling. Yeah.
But I do think that sometimes when we are exploring areas outside of our comfort zone, that like fear of the unfamiliar, that can get mixed in there. And then maybe it can tell us it's a no, but it's not really. It's just like, oh, this is new.
Yes. How do you tell the difference? Have you got an example that you can remember where you felt that difference?
I think actually this conversation that we've been talking about was a really good example.
Yeah.
Because I definitely felt there was a level of uncomfortableness, of discomfort in that conversation. One, that just the person was bringing, with his energy, but also because I knew like this is a chance to be really bold about, not even bold, just very direct. Yeah, maybe direct and bold. Yeah, about my pricing.
Yeah.
And then the other piece was like, if he I had this moment where I was like, oh, if he says yes and he wants to be coached by me, oh, that'll be such a challenging work for me on all levels.
Oh, no. I mean, thank goodness, because that sounds like it would be really challenging.
Yeah, because I would, in order for me to do my job well, I would need to tune down, turn off as much as I could all of my prejudices that have come up for and against this person in this very brief encounter.
You'd be out of alignment, wouldn't you, if you were?
Yeah.
I have to ask you, you mentioned that you use Lego. Yes. Can you tell me a little bit about this?
Oh, it's amazing. I discovered Lego. It's called Lego Serious Play. And it's a system I learned last year. And essentially what we do is we use Lego building blocks to bring to life, visualize challenges, fears, visions, places we want to go, concepts. And there's this beautiful kind of space between like just going with the flow, like having this idea in your head and you just kind of pick up the different pieces and like create something. And then the analysis part where you're like, okay, I think this represents this and this represents that. It's just a super creative way of, bringing something to life.
I'm really intrigued by this. How do you, so through doing that, how would you unlock sort of deep insights for people?
So something that, I also did with a bit of Gestalt like technique with people before, with just, it could be anything like different colored pens or whatnot. But with Lego, it's obviously can take a lot of 3D shape, is building a situation, how it currently is and how you currently feel. The important piece is always the how you feel.
Yes.
And then building that and then analyzing that and trying to understand what's what and kind of where are the big pain points, and then adjusting the image to how you want it to be. I
remember reading this and I was like, I'm so intrigued about this, because what you're doing there is you're bringing in an element of play, aren't you? Which is probably activating the polyvagal nerve, which is a way that you can get out of fight and flight.
Yes. So. It's so much fun, and it's so interesting, all the things that happen, right? I think a lot of people also who would never describe themselves as creative are like, okay, but I can put a few blocks together, and then all of a sudden it's like complex situations, ideas, thoughts can take shape. And then, like I said, the most beautiful part is that you can like unpick it. Yeah. You can like physically unpick it.
How do you know what tool to use with a certain individual? Because I imagine it's very client based, so everyone's different.
The beautiful thing is with all the different tools that I've learned over the years is that me and the coachee get to decide what works best. So it often has to do with the level of comfort that they feel with certain tools and techniques. Like a lot of people might not be open for meditation, but then they might want to do a bit of breath work or play with Lego. Others might want to have a whole session with their eyes closed and like this almost transy, like meditative state to really explore inwardly what's going on for them. And I think also, like tools like Ayurvedic wisdom can also come in, like if we're exploring maybe physical health and things like that. So it's really super individual. And
can you explain a little bit more about what that is to the listeners?
The Ayurvedic piece, yeah.
So, I wouldn't be able to pronounce that, I don't think. So I'm glad you said it.
Yeah, Ayurveda. Some people say Ayurveda, Ayurvedic wisdom. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it's the way I've been pronouncing it. But it's, it's a way of living and a medicinal approach from India. And the great thing with also the way that the whole system is set up in India is that it's about prevention. So if you live a very Ayurvedic life, the focus is on preventing disease. Of course, also treating it, but also but mainly preventing it. So there's a lot of work with different herbs and spices to make sure your whole gastrointestinal tract is intact.
Yeah.
You work with different herbs and spices to boost your immune system, to give your body certain things that it needs, vitamins, minerals, all of that. But there's a bigger approach. So it's really a full body, mind, and spirit approach. But what a lot of people use, and what I also like to use, is you can do a test on, like, there's 3 doshas, so kind of like 3 types that we are, like physically, emotionally. There's short quizzes that you can do that give you an indication. Of course, an Ayurvedic doctor that has trained to be a doctor for 6 or 7 years can take your pulse and measure this, can look on your tongue, look in your eyes, and like see these patterns.
Yeah.
But there is written quizzes that can also give us a strong indication of kind of which elements are strongest in us, and then we know kind of what can help us balance out more.
We can link these in the show notes so the listeners can learn a little bit more about this. That would be wonderful. We spoke about breathing. What is another maybe small practical tool that the listeners could try today?
I think a lot of these things could potentially seem like, oh, I've heard it so many times, and like, blah,
but
blah.
If you don't do it,
it doesn't work. I do think there's something about journaling and writing down thoughts, feelings, fears.
Yeah.
There's actually been studies that show that for us to process things like thoughts, we have to, well, first we think them. Then if we write them down, is kind of one step to unloading this thought process. The other is speaking it out loud to ourselves. And the third step is speaking it out loud to others. So there's something neurologically that happens when we take these different steps that really helps somebody process their thoughts and their feelings. So that's why journaling is such an important step in that, so that you just write down what's going on, put pen to paper.
Do you know what? I don't journal, and it is something that, when I say I don't journal, I write notes and I do it in some form, but it's messy, and I really have always said I'm going to do this, and I don't know why I don't do it. Something my partner does, which and I know it's very different to pen to paper, but he uses ChatGPT, and he just writes all of everything he's going through, and he'll just write it on there, and then, but he says don't comment, so he would just write down his feelings. So he's got it there, and then he could say, what trends have you noticed, or how do I generally feel in the morning, and I thought that was actually quite clever, because it can work that out for you.
That is clever.
And I thought I definitely want to try this, especially like with periods, and you can track like how you feel, and you only need to do it, let's say, for a few minutes a day, don't you? Like, today I'm feeling this, and I had more energy this morning, or just to track energy levels. I think it's such a wonderful thing to do.
Oh, I love that, because of course you can cue AI to say don't comment or don't summarize, don't do this, but then ask for trends.
I want to ask you about your resilience framework. So your framework is awareness, acceptance, and action.
Yes.
Why these 3 steps, and how do they help people move forward?
Yeah, it's something that I kind of pieced together from 2 different researchers, Dr. Susan David and Dr. Lucy Hone. They have a lot of work that they've done on emotional agility. Is Dr. Susan David, and Lucy Hone's last study was on resilience, I believe. So kind of their theories come together in this like 3-step process, because the awareness piece is really where the slowdown happens, right? Where we slow down, where we gain a bird's eye view to see what's truly going on. Like, what's the situation really about? Right? And we need to slow down in order to see that.
Yeah.
In the emotional agility work by Dr. Susan Davis, there's also this piece around properly naming our emotions. So that in this awareness step, we're not just saying, I'm angry. First of all, if we can, start using what's actually happening is not I am, is not correct. I feel.
I feel. Okay.
Right. So like using language to distance ourselves from this a bit, right? Because it's different saying I am angry versus I feel angry.
Yeah.
And then really what's the anger about? Usually anger is not the thing. It's like I feel left alone with my emotions right now. I feel unheard, unseen, which makes me angry, right? Which makes me feel angry.
Yes.
These types of things, right? So,
and we've got to be really careful, don't we, what we say I am, because that becomes who, well, essentially who we become.
Yeah.
Our words become who, what is the saying? Our words become
our reality.
Our reality, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got to be very careful what comes after I am.
Exactly. And it's a thing we use so freely, don't we? We just so freely say I am. But no, there's many things we feel.
That's a great reminder, actually. That's something I'm definitely going to take away with this call. What does resilience look like for you in your own life right now?
Resilience for me right now is, well, overarchingly, it's about learning to ride the waves, right? Like it's this idea of balance. I guess we can almost kick to the side because like I don't think there's ever like 100% balance. It's we can feel comfortable with where we are. Wave.
I agree with that. I tend to think of the word harmony because we can have harmony. We can work a bit more than usual. We can life a bit more than usual, and it's their harmony. But I don't think there's ever that balance. I don't like the word balance. Harmony feels better to me.
Oh, I like harmony as well. That's lovely. Yeah, and I think for me, I mean, it's finding that harmony. It's finding more comfort in where I am at this moment. And it's a lot of trust. I think that's the biggest thing is trusting myself, trusting that if I'm true to myself and if I keep doing the doing, like, and be present, that it's all going to work out. Like, obviously, I can't just sit here meditating all day and expect my whole life to develop in a way that I wanted to without taking action, because those are important steps, you know? I think for me right now, it's finding more harmony and perhaps joy in the wiggling and wobbling of the waves.
Well, this leads beautifully on to questions that I love to ask all of my audience, and you might have just answered it actually, but what does living an elevated life mean to you?
I love this term elevated life because it's so beautifully open. Because I think for me, probably as seemingly simple as it might be, living an elevated life would mean being more happy every day, like more content every day. And that comes with gratitude, and that comes with, you know, not like just rose-colored glasses, but really the like joys of the little things, and being true to myself also in respecting myself to also take the breaks that I need and to listen to myself.
Why is that version of life important to you?
Anything else is probably, again, just speeding down the highway and not being able to read the signs or see anything. Everything's just whooshing by. And
what's one belief or habit that's helped you become the woman you are today?
One important thing is that I know my purpose is to offer space. And that begins with me, that I need to offer myself space and create space for myself, which I continue to practice every day. It's all a practice. And I think a habit, it's reminding myself that it's all about practicing things and about exploring, and to really let go of this concept of perfection as much as I can. And every day and every hour, every minute is a chance to start something new.
Yeah, I love that. So if listeners could take away just one thing from this conversation today, what would you love it to be?
I would say be brave and trust yourself. Probably potentially a bit cheesy, but that's what I think is needed more of.
You know what? I have got goosebumps and I could listen to you all day. I am so relaxed. There's something about your voice that almost puts me in a meditative state. I feel so calm, and I hope the listeners do too. So Verena, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your story and your tools with us today. I loved exploring how space, mindfulness and resilience can transform the way we lead and live. If you'd like to learn more about Verena or her experience or her coaching, I'll add her details to the show notes below. But as always, thank you for listening to the Elevated Life podcast. If this conversation resonated, please share it with a friend who might need it today. Until next time, it's bye from us. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much, Polly. This was so lovely.
I feel honestly like your voice. And if you've enjoyed this episode of the Elevated Life Show, please subscribe. It helps us reach more amazing people like you, and it helps you stay inspired and aligned every single week. See you next time.